What's up, guys? It's Braden with Chaos Creative, and I am back today with a quick Photoshop tutorial to talk through product retouching, but more specifically, high frequency separation. And I've got my tablet out, so you know I mean business today. And we're going to show you how we went from this to this using high frequency separation. So let's dig in. All right, so the first thing we need to do is really set up our files before we get going. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a copy first of this background. So Command J, that's how we make a copy. And we're going to create a blur. So high frequency separation is all about separating texture from color. So we're going to create the color layer first. So we're going to go up to Filter, Noise, Median. And the whole point of this is we want to get rid, let's see if I can find the bottle. We want to get rid of the texture and just focus on the color. So I want to do as small as I can. So let's check out 2. There's still some good texture in there. So let's see what 3 does. Let's see what 4 does. Maybe a little too blurry on 4. So let's go back to 3. Let's just start with 3. Gets rid of that texture. Oh, you know what? Make sure you convert this to a smart object first because we want to be able to edit it. So back again, median, 3, boom. Now what we want to do is duplicate that same effect. So we're just going to create it right on top, same number 3, and just smoothen it out a little bit more. And so you can see already the difference. There's the original. Now we've created that color layer, that blur, essentially, just so we can deal with the layer and not the texture. So I want to keep that in its form. I don't want to mess with that. So I'm going to create a copy, and I'm going to rasterize that layer. Not convert it to a smart object, because we're going to be dealing with a mixer brush later, and you have to rasterize a layer. So I'm going to create a clipping mask so it only stays on top of that layer. All right, so now what? Now we need to create a texture layer. So let's go over here. Let's call this color, and let's call this color edit, because that's the layer we're going to be editing. So let's go back to our original layer. Let's Command Shift bracket to put it to the top. And this is going to be our texture layer. So we're going to go to Image, Apply Image. That's where we're going to go. So here on Layer, we want to make sure it's on the color edit layer. So if you drop it down, there's the color, there's the background. We want it color edit. And we want it on subtract, the blending mode. And scale, I keep it at 2 and 128. You can tweak that a little bit if you want, but that's just a good starting spot. So keep it at scale 2, offset 128. And it should be gray. There should be as little color as possible. Just one big gray square. That's what we want. So we're going to change the blending mode to linear light. And what you'll see happen is the texture layer that we just created and the color layer are going to offset to replicate the original photo. So I'm going to hide these. And you'll see there's not much difference between when I created those layers and the original. In fact, there should be no difference. So again, I don't want to edit that. I want to keep that just in case something goes horrifically wrong and I need to start over. So I'm going to Command J, create a copy of that, and then I'm going to change that to normal. I don't want that to, because I want to be able to see the texture, because we're going to be creating, we're going to be editing the texture on this layer, and then we'll be editing the colors on this layer. But one thing that I like to do, and it's kind of hard to see because everything's just so gray and bland, I'm going to create a curves layer, and this will help me really bring out the texture of this. This is just for optics. This isn't actually going into the final image, but I just need to create a 3-point wave here. So make sure there's 3 points. It's going to look a little crazy, but that's all right. And make sure we end on the down. Let's see. Bring that over because I want to be able to see. There we go. That's what we're talking about. So the whole point is we want to be able to see the nitty gritty texture, just like that. Boom. So somewhere around there, it's not a perfect curve, but it kind of gets us where we want it to be. I just want to see all of that disgusting noise. So now you can see the raw texture of this image. We got all these spots. So now I'm going to bust out the old tablet pen, and we're going to go to the texture copy layer. We're never going to mess with the texture layer or the color. We're only going to mess with the texture edit. So on the texture, we're going to use the clone stamp tool. That's kind of how you know. Texture, clone stamp, color, mixer brush for the most part. So get S for clone stamp, and I don't want a soft edge, I want a pretty hard edge, and I want it to flow pretty heavy because I want to copy that texture. So this is how you can retouch, get rid of all those blemishes and all those spots without having to do it's just an easier way than having to go in on the original image and clone stamp that out. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in a group. Back to my texture edit. So I had a like a pillowcase or something over the strobe just to soften the light right there, and you can kind of see the fabric curving, as well as over here you'll see a little bit of the fabric, maybe a little bit of the fabric right here kind of wrinkled and stuff. So we want to get rid of that, but we're going to start with the texture layer first. That's where I start. So again, I'm going to clone some of this texture and just get rid of it. Get rid of that pillowcase cover. And I'm going to do this pretty quick. I don't want to waste your time with a whole bunch of retouching. You should take your time anytime you're working with a client or for a project. This project's actually for Clavel, who makes Blue Stop Max. I did a photo shoot for them. And so I'm just going to quickly, I'm not going to spend too much time. I'm hitting Alt to sample. So you hit Alt and it'll sample over here. And then I'm just kind of drawing. Why am I using a tablet? It's just easier instead of doing this by hand. So now I'm going to go back to this side where this light source is. And just create. Just copy all of that. And if you need to see what's going on, like what's this line right here, we'll just hide it. Okay, so we've got the little shadow line or bottle line right there, so we can get rid of that. I don't want that. Something that I also do here is I will uncheck this aligned button. And what that'll do is that'll allow me just to sample the same area over and over. So I can just, it's not going to move. It'll just go back to that starting spot wherever I go. Oops, don't want to go there. So now I'm going to clip mask that on top of the original texture layer. I'm going to hide that curves because that's just for optics. And we're going to see what dent we've already made already. So we've got rid of some of the spots. Let's really zoom in here. See, this is before, this is after. So we've just copied the grain. The color is still there, which is exactly what we want. So, and I can go down here. I'm just going to do it. I'm not going to do it with the crazy. Oops. Let's just do current layer. Again. Get picky on this. In normal life, I'm not going to get too picky. I'm just going to get rid of these because I'm a little OCD. But you'll also see some of those blemishes down here. That's gross. It's disgusting. We don't want any of those. And if you can hear my computer sounding like it's about to take off, it's having a hard time keeping up with all of this clone stamping action. So just duplicating these, doing some little surgery. Okay. So now that I got rid of the texture, am I happy with it? Let's keep going a little bit more. Did I tell you I'm OCD? So we're just going to bring this texture all the way to the edge of that bottle. I just want it uniform. I want it looking good. Get rid of some of these. Bracket will make it smaller. And then I can clone stamp. Cool. So again, let's see. Clip mask that. So before, after. So there's still some spots down there. Not going to worry about it because I'm doing this for you and not for money. So now I'm going to get my mixer brush out. Where's the mixer brush? You go over to your brush tool, but you make sure you go to the bottom, mixer brush. Boom. There it is. And I keep things at 100, 100, 100. Flow is the only thing I really adjust. Other people do things differently. That's just what I found has worked for me, so play with those. And when we come down here and work with the mixer brush, we're focusing on color. We've adjusted the texture, we've clone stamped the texture so everything's nice and even up here. So when we get the color brush going, the mixer brush, we're just brushing away and blending colors. That's really what the mixer brush does. So we're going to let's start pretty heavy. So let's start shift 4 or shift, and then a number will change the flow. So if I want 30, it'll shift 3, shift 4. And I want this to be pretty soft. Let's check it. Yep. Okay. So we're hardness 0. And then I'm going to start brushing this away. And this is really when the pen tool or the tablet comes in handy, because it really is just brushing away the colors. And you're not losing the texture. This is where the magic happens, people. That texture will stay there. And just clone stamping this originally would have been a nightmare. But now I can just brush this away. But I really want it to be a little bit more dramatic than that. So I'm just pushing this all away. I don't want it to completely go away, so I'm going to brush it, soften that edge right there. And as I get close to this stop sign, nice and relaxing, just painting this away. And I'll do the same over here. Just kind of brush it all over. Start softening these lines, getting rid of those wrinkles. By the way, this is a technique that a lot of skin retouchers use in portrait photography, so it's sort of the same. I'm going to be a little bit more dramatic than maybe portrait photographers would do. But frequency separation is also highly popular in portrait photography as well. So to clean out the blemishes in people's skin and just smoothen it and make it look real pretty. So we're going to just curve it around, try to make this look as natural. Bracket again to change the size. You can kind of see when you zoom out kind of the areas that need a little love and that look a little fake. So it's just a process of brushing it, working it, tweaking it. Let's look at the progress. I'm going to hide this group. So here's the progress we've made already, and that was 5 minutes of retouching. And we've already got rid of those ugly shadows. I'm pretty happy with this, actually. I think it looks pretty nice. So I would probably get rid of that, try to create a nice clean line so it looks continuous. Okay, put that back. Let's get some of that label. So let me show you exactly what I'm doing here. So I got rid of the texture layer. So there's the texture layer. And I'm really just smudging all of these colors, blending them all together. So it just smoothens it out, gets rid of all those harsh lines. And again, OCD, so I'm doing this a ton. So now let's get rid of this hard line right there. Boom. So let's bring in the texture again. So now it's all real life looking. So we'll go down here, and now there's kind of a hard line on the stop sign. So I want to probably bring this down to maybe 20. And just long strokes are your friend, just to make it blend a little prettier. Make it look a little bit more natural. Something like that. Again, I'm not going to make it perfect. Ain't nobody got time for that right now. Just trying to create a tutorial video for you guys. Not change the world with a Photoshop tutorial. So just blend it in a little bit. So let's look at before and after. Again, trying to get rid of that hard line. Let's go all the way out. So that's what we've done. That's before. That's after. Cool. And again, I would clone stamp all that stuff out. It's all disgusting and gross. I may maybe even out some of this down here. Get rid of some of these bubbles. What's going on? And if you're brushing and you're seeing that the texture or the color's not going away, then just switch to the other layer, and that's where it's at. So I can see it and got rid of it. Boom. Just like that. And now it's gone. Then there's this down here. B for brush. That's what we're using for the mixer tool. And I'm just going to go down here and brush that little spot away. Cool. So one thing I do want to do on the top here, I don't love this reflection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this reflection onto this side. So it creates a little bit better symmetry. So I can create a new layer right there. I am going to use the clone stamp and make sure that this says current and below so that it's actually cloning this layer right here. I'm going to soften it so it's a little bit, it blends better. And then so that I can copy this on this side, I'm going to flip the brush. Oh, that was right. So see this button right here, it says flip the width. So now when I copy this, it'll help me move in the opposite direction. So copy it down here. It's okay if it gets a little weird down here. I'm going to create a mask. I'm just going to erase that. So E tool for eraser. Oh, let's hit the X button. Swap that. That way it'll actually work. Erase where it was. And then Control apply layer mask, so it's a rasterized layer. And then back to my mixer brush, and I'm just going to push this down. So this isn't perfect. I don't love this. Kind of goes over. I'm going to change it to 50% so it's a little heavier, a little stronger. Okay, so I can actually move this around if I wanted to. I feel okay about it. So I'm going to drop the opacity a little bit so it creates a little more depth. I'm going to do a little bit better job. Command Z, designer's best friend. Command Z. Smoothing it out. Then I'm going to bring in that copied layer a bit. Brush tool. And then I'm going to drop the opacity a little bit. So it just blends in nicely. So before, let's zoom out. As you can see, there's some area right there I would definitely want to adjust. Make it look a little better. So again, before, after, before, looking pretty good. One last thing I want to do, that's the bottle. I want to kind of retouch this shadow. It gets a little too dark over here, so what I'm going to do is create a shape. Get a pen tool, and I'm just going to create a nice line here that goes with that. I'm going to command select, and that'll highlight that layer. But what that means is I can do pretty much anything inside this. If I hit command shift I, that'll invert that layer selection, and now I can play with anything in this border, and it's not going to let me do anything outside of this line. So I'm going to hide that shape, and there it is. There's a line. So it's going right up until that piece of marble there. And I'm going to go to the background, hit my mixer tool, and I'm going to just brush some of this lighter spots into there. And since there's a boundary, the brush isn't going to go past that boundary. So I can make it lighter. Let's do a little bit stronger, 60%. Command or just shift 6. This is going to be pretty subtle. You may not even notice the difference right now, but I'll do before and after here in a second, and you will see what we just did. Okay. Let's give it a second. Likes to play catch up here when I'm doing a heavy brush. Okay, so let's see. This is after, this is before. So you see I just kind of pulled in some of those shadows to even it out a little bit. So there you go. That's it. I mean, frequency separation, editing the color layer, editing the texture layer. It's going to save you a whole lot of time as compared to going in and just clone stamping everything. You can do it in 2 different layers, brush tool, tablet, and be way quicker, more efficient, do a better job than I just did. Take your time with it. But there you go. If you have any questions, comments, criticisms, leave them in the comments below. Hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, and we'll have more of this kind of content soon, maybe. We'll see. Whenever I have time. I don't know. We'll see you guys next time.